Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art, and I'm really excited to be with you today. This is equivalent to a Friday Sews. It's going to be a sewing catch-up, just of all the things that I was able to get done in the previous week. I had a really busy week and also got a lot of sewing done, so I'm excited to kind of come and share with you all the things that we got made up that I had spoken about in my previous Friday Sews. I am wearing my sort of like swimsuit thing that I made. So this is the set. It has the peplum over top, so you have that modesty, so it feels really comfortable, and the long sleeve shirt with the leggings. I feel really great about it. The material is so cool on the body. It has the shelf brought on the inside, and I love this print. I love this print so much. The top is this vintage McCall's 3187. I really love this top pattern. It is quite long. I guess that was the style back then. But I had thrifted this pattern, and it's a bust of a 34, which is just below, I think my bust is around 35, 36. So given that it's meant for knit materials, I think the fit that I get is awesome. The leggings are McCall's 7122. It's an older pattern, but I found mine in the drawer, and the leggings are a single pattern piece leggings, which is exactly what I was looking for, and you get the bonus of having all of these other fabulous dresses. I cannot wait to make this view right here, view D, the long dress, which I've seen beautiful versions of on Instagram. All right, so let's jump right in. I got a lot of things made last week, which I'm so proud of. My best friend was traveling, so I was making for her and her sisters this little sort of like plushie toy that came in Simplicity 9391. So I was making 5 of them, and I had sort of altered the ear of and the tail of this little thing because I wanted it to look more like a little teddy bear. Did I succeed in that? Probably not. It's fine. I'd asked you all in my previous video whether or not I should add eyes on them and how to go about that. I tried using the fabric markers and noticed that because this was a silk and it was sort of like it had a jacquard weave through it, the ink sort of bled through the fabric. So it wasn't giving me a precise like eyeball the way that I would want. So unfortunately I wasn't able to go with that idea while I think it was brilliant. And then I sort of was just running out of time. My best friend was traveling and I wanted to give it to her before she left. So I went ahead and just left them faceless for this one. I think in the future I would have definitely embroidered sort of the eyes and a little nose and stuff on it while it was still flat before I sort of added all of the stuffing. I think you can do it by hand with the stuffing on as well, and that probably would have worked. But again, given the number that I was making and the time, I went ahead and just gifted it to them as is. I did make collars for each of them and wrote a special little message on it with each of their names embroidered, and I just used a function on my Singer sewing machine that does have like letters on it to write out what I wanted it to say. I also went ahead and made little sacks out of the sleeves from their dad's old dress shirts as well. And I had enough of the remnants from the quilts that I made them a year ago. And I was able to make like these little drawstring sacks. And it was nice because where the button placket is, or where the placket is on the sleeve, I just by turning that over was able to create like a drawstring and put some shoelace ties in there that I had in my stash as well. So it worked out and I felt really great about gifting it to them. I made little tags with the content, what it was, care instructions, and like a little note for each of them as well. So I was really, really excited to gift that to her, and she seemed to really enjoy it. I think I will be making one more for her grandmother because her grandma is visiting right now, and I think that that would be a really beautiful gift to give her. I don't have any more of that same fabric, but I do have some of the fabrics from his other button-up shirts, again, that I used when making the quilts. So I'll see what I can piece together from there. but that kind of worked out. So I'm really excited about that. Then I was making quite a number of Father's Day gift things for my dad and for my older brother, and I made both of them Simplicity S8753. I have both size ranges, and I basically did a chest of 43 for my older brother in the modern fit, which is a bit slimmer and close fitting, but sort of like mid-range. And then for my dad, I believe I made him the size 44 in the classic fit, which is a boxier fit. And my dad tried his on, but I gave it to him yesterday on Father's Day, and he looked so good in his. I was really, really proud of it. I did have to go to Joann's and buy buttons. I couldn't find buttons in my stash for the size that I needed that would work, which is wild to me. I have a phenomenal button stash, and it has never failed me. Like, I've been able to work from that thrifted and vintage button stash for quite some time. But given the type of blue in this print, I would have a great selection of blue, but either they were like really feminine looking, and or they I didn't have enough of them, or they weren't the right size. So I just went ahead to Joann's and bought one of their like slimline packs, and I was able to utilize that. I was able to get the buttons from my stash for my brothers. A really nice like addition to my dad's shirt is that I made my son a shirt as well to match him, and I used Simplicity 9201. This is the shirt I made him during the Selfless Sew April. So I already had the pattern pieces cut out. I went ahead and made him one to match his grandpa. My son is named after my dad, so I liked having them have a matchy set. So that was really sweet. And then for my brother, I made him the same shirt out of this gorgeous sort of maroon and teal Ankara fabric that I had in my stash. And that turned out amazing. And I made his daughter a dress and short set to match. For the dress, I used Simplicity 8852. And I made the shorts out of like a vintage kids pattern that I have traced off and just sort of hack as I need to. But I made her shorts out of that as well. And that was really cute. So they're a matchy set. I did see my brother on Sunday as well and gifted that to him. And I saw my sister-in-law and I got her measurements because I'd love to make her something out of what remains of this fabric so that they could be like a matching set as a family, which would be really cool. Right now I'm thinking gathered waist midi skirt with deep pockets. A crop top if we could hack it. I'm not really sure. I did not end up making my brother's shorts to go with his ensemble. I'm gonna make my sister-in-law's skirt first and see what I'm working with as far as fabric at the end of it, and see if I can also make him a pair of shorts. Just because this fabric, I think, might be a bit more challenging to like match with what to wear at the bottom. So I would love for him to have just a full set. That way he could just wear it together and not have to worry about that. But I do want to make sure I prioritize her make and then see what I have left and then work it out. But I'm really excited that they both seem to love their gifts, and that was really sweet. Also, what I made, it was my daughter's birthday last week, so I made her 2 dresses as well. So I did use that gorgeous Ankara fabric to make her this little dress, and I kept Simplicity S8852 out, and that's what I used for the bodice portion, and I just stopped it at the waistline, a little bit above the waistline, and just added a gathered skirt at the bottom of it to a length of my choosing. I did add some ties to the back of that so that she could cinch it in and it could grow with her. It has the deepest of hems. It's about a 3-inch hem or so that I could let it out as she gets taller, because it's a bit roomier in the body, and then she could cinch it in as needed or let it out. I did a hook and eye closure here in the back. I fully lined the bodice of this, like fully lined it, and that was just to avoid having to do a facing. I found it easier and neater in my opinion, and I had enough fabric to do it. I went ahead and put bias binding around the arm side and added this cute little flutter sleeve, which I like hacked onto it. It's not a part of the pattern. But that was the first dress that I made her. She didn't end up wearing this to like her little shindig, but she did wear this, and I took them to the cinema for the first time, and we watched The Little Mermaid. She didn't like it. She thought that it was too scary, and the shark was trying to eat the mermaid, and she was like, next time, can we see something that's not as scary? Duly noted. My little nugget, duly noted. But she did like the dress, and then for her actual shindig, I made her this little dress, again using the same pattern, B6828. If I have something cut out, best believe I'm just going to use it and figure out how to hack it. So this does have an under dress, so I made the dress as is. For the bottom layer, this is like a poly cotton blend fabric that I picked up at G Street Fabric in the dead stock section some time ago. And this gorgeous fabric up top is from Joann Fabrics. I picked it up as a remnant years ago and just was so confused as to what to make out of it. So I ended up using this for her, and for the bottom edge, I cut around the florals. It had like the mesh at the bottom, so I just cut the mesh off so that it has like the scalloped edge. Unfortunately, the way that they ended the fabric like wasn't, I know that it wasn't going to be a straight line, but it wasn't even kind of even. There were some that dropped a lot lower, so it sort of is funny in some areas, and I was thinking about going back in to sort of level it, if you will. I did the sleeve and added some pink elastic there that I had actually picked up from the dollar store. So it's this elastic band that they have, and I zigzag stitched it to make this little cuff here, which is kind of a part of view A of this, but her sleeve is a little bit shorter. I think I just cut it to what I had left of the fabric because I was working with a really small piece, and this was how long I could get it. So I just put the elastic here about 1.5 inches. I also bias bound the little bottom edge there just to make it a bit cleaner and more substantial. I didn't want to narrow roll hem that because the sort of embroidery on here does get thick in some places, and then of course where it's just the mesh is super thin, so it'd be hard to kind of handle and manage. She loved this dress. It was just floating around, got her little butterfly wings, so she was a happy girl. So I'm happy that I was able to make her 2 things out of that, and yeah, that was delightful. So those are the things that I made up last week, and it really did feel like I was a sewing machine. I was finding times like in the early mornings before leaving for work, I would come home and just like get into it. And it was nice that I was sewing similar things, so it became muscle memory, like what I was doing. I did a ton of flat felled seaming on just about everything. I don't know that I necessarily used my serger. I used a lot of bias binding, a lot of flat felt seams for all of the men's shirts. I did French seam this dress, so for both layers they are French seamed in the middle just because of the type of fabric that it was. I felt like that would be the cleaner finish. So I'm really proud of the finishes. I don't feel like I skimped out in any way on finishing these to my desired preference, and I think the outcomes were really beautiful. I made beautiful little tags for my, brother and my dad's gifts as well. So I just thought I had started putting so much thought into like the end and finished products, so I was really, really proud of my makes for this week. So I'm gonna quickly go over some additional things that I got in. Not that I needed to have been buying anything else, but these I had purchased, I think, and just didn't have time to include them in the video, and they arrived a little bit after. So I'll show you some of the trims that I recently got, and if it's hard to see as I hold them up, I will do some cutaways or put some clips of them online, and I'll link the shop that I got these from off of Etsy down below. I think they do some really, really beautiful trims, and here I just fell in love with the colors of this. I think it could be great for autumnal use and or all year round, and this I got 2 of. I can't recall if it came as a pair or if I just purchased two, but I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I really, really enjoy working with embroidered pieces. I could see this being on a dress, sort of cascading down like this. I loved this longer piece here. I'm a sucker for a really nice pink and blue moment. The back of it also is like not hard. It doesn't have that like white backing that I would usually assume it would have. Like, it's super drapey, so even if I was going to layer this on top of a very drapey fabric, I think it would work well. And I like the length of this. This is also something I got two of. The final thing that I got is this like crane, and I just think it's so gorgeous. Like, look at that with the little legs. Now, because of how delicate this is with the neck and the legs, this would be something like I would make the item and then figure out a way to sort of like hand stitch it on. I would probably add some like adhesive, iron-on adhesive to the larger sections, and then for the little wispy bits at the ends here, I would then hand stitch those in just to make sure. But I got 4 of these. I think they came in pairs, so I ordered 2 pairs if I'm not mistaken. Again, let me show you what the back of it looks like. So here you are. So all you see is the stitching. You don't actually see any sort of like heavy sort of like interfacing that I would have assumed would have come on the back. So I'm really, really pleased with like the quality of these. And the seller had amazing reviews on Etsy. So those are the additional trims that I got. As far as patterns, I did meet up with the Butterick pattern sale, and I want to go over the 3 things that I picked up. B6901. This is, I mean, a couple of seasons ago this came out, but I know that vests are having a moment, and I wanted to have at least one pattern that had a vest in it, and I like the cut of this in addition to these slacks. So that's why I thought this pattern was going to be a good one for me to pick up, because there are actually multiple views in it that I would like. I like the cut of the trousers a lot, and the vest has the little tie in the back and has a welt pocket. So I just think it's a phenomenal look, and the model on the cover is really selling it for me. Like, this looks incredible. I also got B6328. I think this is an older pattern. I found it while flipping through the book. And the reason why I wanted to pick it up was for this view A, in addition to some of the other views, which I think would be helpful for fabrics that I have in smaller quantities. But I wanted view A because I am in the market for a cropped, sleek, you know, topper piece, and I will talk about that in my plans in just a moment. And the final one I got was B6603. I have a shirt that my aunt gave me that I think is from like White House Black Market, I think, or Chico's, and it has like this sort of cape-like look to it that is so floaty. I think I just needed a pattern where I could see what the design lines are and how you actually sew the sort of capelet part to the front, which I would be able to learn because that does happen here. And I would find a way to sort of hack it to get what I want. So here are the design lines, but I thought it was definitely worthwhile for me to have. I also picked up a number of wools this year, or this year, from G Street Fabrics that I'm excited to kind of work on as we're going to head back into the fall, winter later on in the year. So it might be one that comes in handy at that point as well. Now I can talk to you about my plans and what I am hoping to do this upcoming week, because some of these patterns kind of come into play there as well. The first thing that I'm going to do is S8735, and I'm going to make that out of this incredible drapey black jacquard fabric. I think this is a poly fabric. My cousin picked this out from my stash, and she wants me to make that wrap dress for her after seeing me in mine. And I have cut out the size that I'm going to use for her, and I'll talk about that once I've actually made it up. The nice thing about that pattern is that it does include bust cup sizes. So each of, at least for the bodice, each of the pieces sort of has its own little set. So that was wonderful. So I think she did fall into a different cup size than me. And that way I was just able to find her size and then cut out the bodice pieces for her. Now, that does not, come into play for the actual skirt pieces. So I will have to sort of make those adjustments and add the additional width to it, to those pieces prior to cutting it out. So I need to remember to do that as well. But I'm really excited to make that up for her. And it's been ironed and starched and she did that already. So I am going to go ahead and cut that out and try and get that made up hopefully this week. And I miss sewing for myself. What I'm really inspired to do is dig into some of the fabrics that I had picked up in my girls trip when I went to Charlottesville. And you might have seen that in a haul that I recently put up. But I got this Atelier Brunette Peony Viscose fabric from You Fine Fibers, the store out in Charlottesville. And thank you so much. Someone in the comments let me know in that video that it's pronounced You. It's spelled E-W-E, but You Fine Fibers, and I think this fabric is just gorgeous, and I have never worked with an Atelier Brunette fabric, and I'm really excited to do so. I'm going to use the bodice of B6702. It's turning out to be one of my favorite shirt dress bodices to date, and I love just those darts that come from the waistline in the front and in the back. It gives a really beautiful shape, and I like the collar. So I am going to add to that a 2-tiered gathered skirt to make it maxi length, and I will add pockets to it. So that is my plan for this. With the cotton sort of striped fabric that I picked up, it is a narrower width, so I do have to keep that in mind. I knew from the beginning that I wanted a pair of trousers out of this. Now, I have a couple of trousers in mind that I might consider. And the first is this Very Easy Vogue pattern 9014. Does it have pockets? I don't think it has pockets, but I'd want to add pockets to this. I'm a little bit hesitant just because of how much fullness is here. If this were like a drapier viscose fabric, I might do this. So I might save this for some of my resort wear collection viscose rayon fabrics. But when I picked up this Butterick pattern, I did consider these trousers. They do give a very more formal, business-like appearance when you see it this way. However, when I was viewing the design lines, I honestly think that this could be a good pick for it. It has amazing pockets. It has a side seam zip. So lots of really great things about it. And it would give me an opportunity to actually utilize it. So I am thinking that this could be a good contender. For the bamboo knit in this rust stripe, I know that I'm going to go ahead and just make the top that I'm currently wearing. So I'm going to go back to this McCall's 3187, this vintage pattern. I'm going to crop it a little bit. These patterns are quite long, so I am going to make that. I just love the fit of this knit top. I love it. And I may go ahead and do a shelf bra in this as well. I'm going to see how I feel when I'm actually cutting it out. But that should be quite a quick make, a quicker make. And for this Merchant and Mills cotton sort of textured fabric, I know that I want to make some sort of topper out of it so that I could wear it over some of the other items and pieces that I plan to make. A pattern from my stash that I pulled out is this Vogue 9350. Now, the size range that I picked this up in when I thrifted it was the 14, 16, 18. I think that I would probably need a size 10 in this because in opening the pattern pieces, things were quite large. So what I'm going to do is actually on the tissue paper, try and sketch out what I think a size 10 and 12 would be, and then use my tracing wheel to trace that out on some parchment paper or something like that, and then use those pattern pieces I would probably want to test this out on something else, on a different fabric, and that might be what I do just to make sure that it fits. Another pattern that I considered is one of the new ones that I got, which was B6328. I kind of got it with the intention of that view A right here. And if you see it in the line drawings, it's a cropped, more slim sort of sleeved little jacket. I did peek at the instructions and I found it interesting. I think they want you to line that front section. I wouldn't be lining this. I did buy some bias tape and might just do some like Hong Kong seam finishes and that sort of thing. But those are sort of my two ideas for that Merchant and Mills fabrics. Those are my plans for my girls trip fabrics, and it's really making me pleased that it's coming together and I do have ideas for them. I have thought of a plan for my Zimmermann inspired dress, and I know that I just need to get beyond the bottom 3 layers for me to feel okay with kind of moving forward with this. We are on summer hours at work at the school that I work at, and if I were to go in at my usual time and leave at my usual time, I should be able to carve out an additional hour and a half for myself in the day. And I could use one of the sewing machines that are there possibly, and then start working on this, right? So that it's not taking up like my fun sewing that I want to do at home, but I do carve out that time in a designated space, and like while I'm here, this is what I do. And if I could get through, like, this is my longest layer here, I think. So what I may do is go ahead and serge the ends of these, take them into work with me, spend my initial hour, like go at my usual time, spend that first hour and just do the basting stitches. I believe that what I'm also going to do is utilize serger thread in the sewing machine to do the basting stitches, because I don't need these to be super strong necessarily, and I know that because of how much fabric I need to gather, doing these 2 rows of stitches, like, it just wastes so much thread, and I'm not willing to use my good thread to do that. So I think I'm gonna bring in some serger threads with me, fill up the bobbins with it, kind of pass it through the top of the sewing machine with it, and kind of go to town and try and get the bottom 2 attached and then gathered so I can keep going. And if that can be my project there, then I can slowly make progress throughout the rest of this month. I'm not gonna say like I'm gonna do a tier a day. Will that happen? Possibly, could, we'll see. But there's just so much that goes into this, and I think not taking up my like joyous sewing time at home is probably gonna be the best way for me to actually tackle this. Now that I have the rick rack and all of the other things, I think I might be ready to actually get started with this. Other things that I picked up in the haul that I shared the last time, I just want to say this whole like seam gauge magnet was a game changer, and it was so helpful when I was making the shirts for my brother and my dad, and like everything that I made, just being able to like butt the fabric up right against this seam gauge and just know that I was constantly at either 5/8, 3/8 of an inch, and it helped me with doing my French seam, so I knew exactly where everything was. Like, why I didn't get this little thing sooner and it was so affordable, I don't know. But if you have debated getting the seam gauge, do yourself a favor, my friends. Like, I don't often try and push people getting stuff, like, do what you need to. But I had done like masking tape, I had done washi tape on the thing, and yes, it would help me like keep account of where I needed the fabric to be, but it didn't necessarily help me keep the fabric there. You know what I mean? I had to be very conscious of that. But this one, I like legitimately would just like make sure that my fabric was as far over as possible, and it would just guide it. It made me so happy. So it definitely helped. I used my awesome little flexi buttonhole guide tool for all of the shirts, and that was really cool. So I was very proud that I was immediately making use of the tools that I had purchased in my stash, and that was really nice. And that is me for this week. Really excited to show you what I get made up this week as we go ahead. I hope you like being able to actually see the swimsuit on. I love these colors on me, and I'm really excited that I made it. Let me know which one of my plans you're most excited to see. I am really hopeful that I just kind of am able to do some consistent progress on a lot of these projects that I have in mind. I'm very, very excited about this. If you have any questions, please leave them down for me below. Again, I will try and link the site on Etsy for these little appliques, and of course, as I begin to use them in makes, you will be the first to know. If you have any other questions, please leave them for me in the comments down below, and otherwise I will see you soon. Stay creative, my friends. Bye-bye.